Hey everybody, what is going on? Hexlex here with another Master Duel video for y'all. So today we're coming back to our Adventure Phantom Knight deck, which is honestly one of my personal favorite decks here in Master Duel, and still, even to this day, I maintain is one of the most underrated decks in Master Duel. It certainly has been for some time, and I think that persists now, even into this new format we're about to come into. Although I think at the time this video comes out, I think actually the new ban list has probably just dropped, so... Yeah, Adventure Phantom Knight, like I said, and have said many times before, this deck is vastly underrated. Even before Torn Scales went back to 3, I think this card, or I think this deck rather, was still extremely powerful, and then Torn Scales going from 2 to 3, once again, definitely gave it a much needed boost. It also got a decent boost, even the latest selection pack with the release of Illegal Knight. This card adds a bit more utility to the deck. It's not like super critical by any means, and if you don't have a copy, you could certainly get away without playing it, but it's still nice to have the option to be able to bounce multiple cards on the opponent's field. It's kind of like a lava golem, except instead of tributing, it just bounces cards, but it can bounce any cards, and then you can bounce the Illegal Knight back to your hand, so it's a repeatable lava golem that bounces. I think it's a pretty good card overall, even though, like I said, I don't personally use it too often. When it does come up, it's pretty nice. The build itself actually has not changed, believe it or not, like whatsoever, from the last time I featured this deck, which was very shortly after the latest selection pack came out. I'm sure, as I have with some of my other decks, I'm going to have people saying, why don't you cut Nibiru for Heartbeast Feather Duster? Nibiru isn't great against a lot of decks this format, and there's a lot of back row based decks going around. And I do agree that there are more back row based decks going around and less decks that are susceptible to Nibiru, but I think enough of the pool of like generally what you play against is susceptible enough to Nibiru that I think it's still worth playing. Furthermore, like on top of that, if you're playing Maxx, I am very much of the opinion that you should have a threat to Maxx into, that threat being Nibiru. I can't really think of any other like substitutes for Nibiru that can accomplish the same thing Nibiru can, which is a mass board wipe when the opponent summons a lot. Now, to be fair, it is a valid criticism that, you know, Branded Despia, Floowandereeze, Runic are 3 very popular decks, 3 of the most popular decks, and they're not susceptible at all to Nibiru, and that is very true. That said, I think there's still enough other matchups where Nibiru is good. Also, it could just be variance, it could just be my personal experience of what I've been facing on ladder, but I don't personally feel like I've been facing enough Runics or Labyrinths or anything else to, like, necessitate cutting Nibiru for Heartbeast Feather Duster en masse in all of my decks. There are some decks where, like, you know, a Feather Duster is better or, like, more needed, or it might even be better than a Nibiru, but I don't think that's a general rule for me personally. That's just my experience, though, so... I'm still really liking the droplets in this build and just in this format in general. Droplet is an extraordinarily powerful card right now. It's not particularly great against Runic or anything, but, you know, Branded Despia, Sword Sultani, a lot of the top decks in general are just super susceptible to having their board dropleted. Against Branded Despia, you have to be a bit more mindful of when you use it. I try to wait for when they Guardian Chimera and, like, when they have Guardian Chimera and Mirror Jade in play, if possible, or just when they're Guardian Chimera, using Guardian Chimera in general. That's what I tend to prefer to hit with a droplet. But honestly, all the same, like, it's just still a very good card this format. I think any deck that can run droplet probably should be playing it. And I really would like a third droplet in here. I think I've mentioned this when talking about this deck before, but I really also like these 40 cards in particular. I think these 40 cards are where you want to be with Adventure Phantom Knight. I think the droplets are really just about the only flex spot, to be totally honest. I really don't see any other card, except maybe you could argue Nibiru and or Illegal Knight. Like, those 4 cards are the only 4 I could possibly see myself cutting from this deck. The other 36, I think, more or less have to be here. Including this Destiny Hero engine of Mali plus Denier, that has proven consistently to be the best value engine for DPE in terms of, like, follow-up value, right? Like, on the next turn, you know, having access to, like, multiple materials, like having Mali and Denier engrave it on the follow-up turn, it feels like a cheat code to go into Access Code Talker, honestly, is how it usually plays out. Like, you know, you can run out the rest of your hand, you can run out your DPE, and then, you know, during your follow-up turn, when you don't have a lot of resources, but neither does your opponent, like, you can Mali plus Denier, there's a the Dark Charm or Gloomy right there, and assuming you can bring back a Dark monster for your opponent's graveyard, you can use Mali again, and then boom, there's 4 monsters to be able to go into Access Code right there, so, yeah, these cards, very, very good in this deck. Definitely the Destiny Hero engine. that I think is best for this particular deck. Alright, I think that's about all I have to say really about the deck in general, so let's just go ahead and break it down card by card, and then we'll take a look at some gameplay. We're playing 3 Maxx, 2 the Phantom Knights of Ancient Cloak, 3 the Phantom Knights of Silent Boot, 1 the Phantom Knights of Ragged Glove, 3 Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring, 3 the Phantom Knights Torn Scale, 1 Destiny Hero Denier, 1 Water Enchantress of the Temple, 1 Artifact Scythe, 2 Destiny Hero Malicious, 1 Wandering Gryphon Rider, 1 Illegal Knight, 1 Nibiru the Primal Being, 1 Foolish Burial, 1 Reinforcement of the Army, 1 Fusion Destiny, 2 Rite of Aramesir, 1 Dracoback the Rideable Dragon, 1 Fateful Adventure, 2 Call by the Grave, 1 Crossout Designator, 2 Forbidden Droplet, 1 Phantom Knight's Wing, 1 the Phantom Knights of Shade Brigandine, and then finally 3 Phantom Knights Fogblade. Extra deck is going to be 1 Destiny Hero, Destroyer Phoenix Enforcer, 1 Leviair the Sea Dragon, 1 the Phantom Knights of Breaksword, 1 Raider's Knight, 1 Arc Rebellion Xyz Dragon, 1 Link Spider, 1 Salman Great Almirage, 1 Cherubni Ebon Angel of the Burning Abyss, 1 Artifact Dogda, 1 Predaplant Ver Anaconda, 1 Dark the Dark Charmer Gloomy, 1 Nightmare Unicorn, 1 the Phantom Knights of Rusty Bardish, 1 Appaloosa Bow of the Goddess, and then finally 1 Access Code Talker. So there is the list. Now let's go take a look at some gameplay. Alright, the first match we're going to take a look at is actually against Runic, funnily enough, so let's see how we end up faring against the big bad of the format here. This is going to be a pure Runic variant as well. We're going to get to take the first turn. Looks like our hand it's alright. Like, we get to set up a DPE and Wandering Gryphon Rider here, so can't complain too much about that, even if we don't have, like, our quote-unquote full combo. Scythe would actually be very good against Runic. Denying them access to any of their extract monsters is not only going to deny them access to Hugin for Fountain, but also very much limits how many Runic spells they can play. So I would have very much liked to establish a Scythe here, but you know, I'll obviously settle for DPE, Wandering Gryphon Rider, and then I even have a couple of Fogblades as well. So if the opponent does trade a Hugin for Fountain, they're very likely to have a fairly bad time. So funnily enough, the Ancient Cloak is actually all you need to set up a DPE. It's kind of a one-card combo in that regard. Basically, you just Ancient Cloak into Almirage, use the Ancient Cloak effect to grab the Shade Brigandine. You can link that away for Link Spider, as we saw, and then you just link the Almirage and Link Spider into the Ver Anaconda. So, yeah, this deck, it seems kind of complicated on the surface, but really, once you learn some, like, core combo lines, then, I mean, it's like a lot of combo decks in that regard. If you learn a core line, then from there you can kind of branch and learn like what you can and can't get away with. So opponent's going to start with a Mono Iwado. I'm definitely going to Fogblade this. I've seen some people in the comments say like, oh, don't imperm or negate a Mono, then it won't return to hand. But I'm like, no, I definitely need to negate it because I need to be able to use my monster effects to, like, not lose to Runic this turn. Like, I'm fine imperting a Mono, like, even, like, you know, Fogblade is obviously different because it'll stay negated, but even if this was imperm, I'm fine using imperm on a Mono Iwado. It's gonna stay around, sure, but, like, I find a 1900 body to deal so much easier to deal with than, like, a lot of the other stuff Runic throws out. So I generally think this card is worth negating, as long as you have an out to it. So they're going to try to Flashing Fire at my Wandering Gryphon Rider. I'm definitely just going to negate it. That way I not only get the Gryphon Rider back in my deck, but I can also prevent them from banishing cards from my deck. They do get to set 3 before going into a card of Demise, which is definitely not ideal for me, nor is the Stark Ruler no more. Yeah, definitely not super ideal, but let's see, they end up dualitying for the Runic Destruction. So the fact that they didn't grab Skill Drain kind of tells me that they probably already have like some kind of a Floodgate card here. Fortunately for me, they actually didn't get to Runic Fountain, but the card of Demise definitely got them equivalent card advantage. Like, you know, they were able to draw 3, and they still have all their stuff set up. So, you know, that combined with the fact that I now no longer have my DPE. Well, I guess to be fair, it's going to come back during the next turn. But I'm not going to have it actually because of Rivalry of the Warlords. I just got a little bit ahead of myself there. So, yeah, we are feeling the pain of this Floodgate. Not being able to bring back DPE. However, this is actually one of the least threatening Floodgates my opponent could have flipped up. And I honestly, because what did they grab? Destruction? And did they use it? I'm trying to see. No, because like, yeah, they destroyed the Fogblade. But I think they should just grab the Skill Drain, to be totally honest. Like, I think that was a bit of a misplay. Not a bit, I think that was just a misplay on the opponent's part. The skill drain, like, you know, the Amano Iwado just bounces back to hand. Like, that's fine. I don't care about it anymore. The skill drain would have been much more devastating here, but in any case, yeah, I'm not going to get my DP back because of Rivalry, but I can just bounce Rivalry with the Dracoback, so I wasn't super concerned about it. And now I can just search up the Wandering Gryphon Rider and pitch this Ancient Cloak I got. The opponent tries to chain Runic Dispelling, but the funny thing about Wandering Gryphon Rider is that it's a quick effect, so yeah, you know, I can just, you know, special this and not have to worry about losing it. Now, they do get immune and off here, so I do have to be mindful of, you know, how I target their back rows, and I am actually going to make a slight misplay here regarding the Munin, because to be honest, I always mix up Munin and Hugin's, like, conditions. Like, Hugin requires that a card is about to be destroyed, but Munin only requires that it's going to be targeted. Munin also negates and destroys the card, but Hugin just offers as a substitute destruction, so, yeah, sometimes I don't always, like, keep those two super, I don't always keep that straight in my head there. So I'm going to Troop Me and set up my graveyard for sure. I want to use the Silent Boots to get a Wings to my hand, and then by banishing the Boots, the plan was to bring back the Torrent Scales here. Now I can use Torrent Scales effect. Well, I would have if I had, you know, been able to send the Wing. That was a bit of a misplay on my part. The other misplay I made here was this Nightmare Unicorn. I should have targeted this face down card, but instead I targeted the Munin. Oh, that's right, I used the Wing for discard fodder for Nightmare Unicorn, not Torrent Scales, but yeah, I should have targeted the back row card because Munin was always going to activate either way, so at least if I had done it this way, then I would have gotten rid of the face down. Now, at this point, though, it doesn't really matter too much because I'm just going to access code this last back row and then bring back the Malicious and go for game. I actually remember during the game itself, I was really running down on the clock. Like, I remember at this point during the turn, I had, like, you know, less than 50 seconds left on the clock. Oh, this too. So the opponent actually made a really good play here using their last Runic spell to get a Jerry of the Runic Fangs, because, you know, I normally can't pop this with access code, and then if I try to battle into it, they'll just, you know, stop themselves from getting lethal. But because I actually have the last Fogblade here, I can negate the Jerry's effect and pop it with a card effect, and Jerry only gets the destruction when it's destroyed by battle, so I don't have to worry about that. Yeah, I remember specifically here I had like literally 20 seconds left as I was attacking for game here, trying to find lethal. But we did manage to find it. We managed to play through our opponent's back rows and their floodgate as well. So we even did it without Harpies for that Esther there. So GG's against Runic there. Let's go to move on to the next duel. Alright, so this game here, this one's going to be against a Dragon Link deck. 60 card. Well, I was going to say, of course, 60 card. I mean, there is the 40 card variant, which I do still think is a fine deck, but I do think the 60 card is generally a little bit more powerful. So we get to go first again here. Again, we only have really the Ancient, we quote-unquote only have Ancient Cloak, but we actually opened the Scythe as well, so we get to go for a Scythe lock here. We're not going to get the Wandering Gryphon Rider setup. Like, we do get the Fateful Adventure effect, but unfortunately we don't actually get the Gryphon Rider as a whole setup here. I actually should have activated Fateful Adventure. Oh no, I do activate Fateful Adventure. Okay, good. Oh yeah, but here I'm actually going to specifically send the Silent Boots, so that way I can... basically, the whole reason that I did the Silent Boots instead of just directly adding the Shade Brigandine with the... what do you call it? With the Ancient Cloak is so that I could... set up this Fateful Adventure and still have... Well, actually, I don't need to discard the Dracoback here, do I? For some reason, I thought I had to discard Dracoback. I think I'm thinking of a different game that I played in this same session. Yeah, here, no, I didn't have to use Silent Boots there. I could have just used Ancient Cloak and then... Oh, no, because I activated the... Wait, did I use the normal summon to monsters effect? I'm actually trying to... I should just pay more attention. No, I didn't use the normal summon to monsters effect, but I think I was figuring because I couldn't get the Wandering Gryphon Rider set up that I, you know, didn't really particularly need to get Rite or Dracoback set up, but I probably should have actually. I could have used the DPE to pop the Dracoback and then the Scythe, and then I could have had a DPE set up here as well, so... the opponent is particularly playing a Dragon Link variant that is using the Adventure package, so they do actually still have some plays despite getting Scythe locked. They even have the Gryphon Rider to chain to my Maxx, so all things considered, this is probably the best case scenario for my opponent, given the circumstances they're under here. But again, you know, we just have to remember that they are playing Dragon Link, and they are under a Scythe lock, so they are extraordinarily limited in what they're able to do this turn. Really, pretty much any 60-card deck. I think the only 60-card deck that isn't really super susceptible to Scythe is like 8-Axis Blind Second. There are some 60-card variants of that. Although, to be fair, they do like to go into the extra deck. I don't know. I think, generally speaking, a 60-card deck is most likely going to be relying on the extra deck there. I also do feel a bit bad for my opponent here. I think that they thought that once Scythe was off the board, they could use the extra deck again, as they ended up going for their Destrudo after blowing up the Scythe and then passing, because Scythe is not contingent on being on the board. It just says for the rest of this turn. So even if Scythe gets blown up, it doesn't matter as long as it's special summoned. No extra deck for that entire turn. To be fair, it looks like that would have been a pretty good play on my opponent's part. They could have gone for a Shooting Riser Dragon and then set up a whole bunch of stuff, but alas, you know, they do not have an extra deck, so that is not going to be the case there. And actually, by having their life points, they made lethal a bit easier for me to find here. To be fair, it really wouldn't have mattered either way. Like, I think I can still play through this board, answering the Wandering Gryphon Rider, and have dealt lethal damage this turn, even, you know, aside from the having of the life points from this Destrudo. Yeah, I'm going to use my Gryphon Rider to more or less force theirs, and then once that's done, like, yeah, I don't feel the need to really worry too much about what's going to happen from here on. Yeah, because I used the Rite this turn, I'm not able to use Torn Scales, like, just as a normal summon, but that's fine. I can still, like, I still have this Fog Blade set up in my graveyard if I need it. And I've got this Dark to Dark. Well, I guess they don't have a monster for me to bring back with Dark, to be fair, but this is also what I meant when I was saying during the profile that, you know, having Denier plus Mally in graveyard is such an easy cheat code to go into Access Code Talker, because you just need literally one other monster aside from that, and for this deck, that is definitely not that hard to find at all. Alright, and here, yeah, once the access code gets dropped, my opponent finally concedes, realizing that that I very much have lethal here. But again, I still had the Fog Blade and Torn Scales in the graveyard as well, so I had many, many means to find lethal as well. So there is that game. Let's move right on to the next one. So this one's going to be against Numerons, which it's been a little bit since I've played. Well, actually, it's not been too long, because I remember saying in a video recently, it's been a bit since I've played against Numerons. Definitely don't see them on ladder as frequently as I have in the past, though. Alright, this hand is definitely a little on the awkward side. I kind of have to make a choice of whether I'm going to do like an Adventure Engine play or a Phantom Knights play. And I ultimately decided to go for the Adventure play here. The opponent does have a Maxx, but I have a Crossout Designator. I would have liked to have saved the Crossout. I actually did debate just like not using it here. But the thing that kind of tipped the scales for me in this situation was that I wanted them to not have very many cards in hand because my hand wasn't like particularly great. So, oh, this is actually the game I think I was thinking of earlier where, yeah, we're going to actually discard something other than the Dracoback in order to set up a discard for the Dracoback in the near future. Because, yeah, what I'm going to do is now that I've pitched that Fog Blade, I can send the Torn Scales and go for Almirage. So I actually don't need to really choose between a Phantom Knights play and an Adventure play in like this very specific scenario. Because I still have, well, I could have discarded a Legal Knight as well, but the Dracoback obviously being a much better discard. It's, to be fair, it's not going to end me on too much more than I would have otherwise been able to go into. I'm just going to get a DPE as well, but, you know, as we saw in that other earlier game, like DPE plus a Wandering Gryphon Rider plus a Fog Blade is still a pretty nice setup to have. I actually could have set the Illegal Knight up here. Well, I still could set the Illegal Knight up here. It is a quick effect. I think on both accounts, actually. Yeah, both effects are quick effects, so I even have the Illegal Knight bounce if I really want to here. Yeah, they're going to start with a Terraforming and then follow it up with a Droplet, so it's a little bit of a yikes, but it's actually not too bad, honestly. Because I have pretty much everything in defense mode, and I have the Fog Blade, I know I'm not going to lose this turn. And I also have the Illegal Knight as well, but yeah, this is also, like, Numeron is one of those matchups. This is one of the reasons why I tend to summon things in defense mode when I'm going first. Like, that's another question I've been asked sometimes in comments is, like, you know, why do you summon everything in defense mode on turn 1? Unless something has like significantly higher attack than defense, like Chi Xiao, for example, has like 2800 attack, 1000 defense. That I'll summon in attack mode, but if it's like DPE, for example, where it's pretty close, 2500 attack, 2100 defense, there's usually not much of a difference between those. Yeah, I'll throw everything in defense mode in case I'm playing against Numerons, or some other OTK deck like Crusadia, although they can usually do piercing, or just in general, if my opponent has like an attack reducing effect like Droplet, then it's, you just don't get wrecked by it. Basically, it's like, it's kind of niche, the situations in which you would want to, you know, have your monsters in defense mode rather than attack, but there's not really any benefit to leaving them in attack as opposed to defense mode, so... yeah, the opponent's getting out the Megaclops there, you know, as they fail to OTK, but this is probably the deck that Megaclops is the least effective against. Obviously, not only is there, like, you know, Break Sword in the extra deck, we have an Xyz monster to answer them, but there's also Dracoback, as we saw here, can very easily bounce their cards. Fogblade also being a searchable negate is also very good against a lot of effects like that, so... yeah, there's that game against Numerons. I think we've got one more game to take a look at. Let's jump straight into it. And for our final duel for this video, we're going to be playing against a 60-card Adamancipator deck. And if this is the game that I'm thinking of, there's actually kind of an interesting decision point that happens here. Alright, well, once again, wow, we took the first turn all 4 of these games, didn't we? Going first hit again. This time I'm going to use the Torn Scales to try to set up my graveyard because I don't really have an adventure play here. But the opponent has an Ash Blossom, going to kind of stop us dead in our tracks. But thankfully, we did open the Fusion Destiny, so... Oh, you know what? Actually, I do still have some amount of plays here because I sent the Fogblade specifically. That's right, I forgot about this. So I can actually bring back the Torn Scale. And even though I already used the effect, what I can do here... is I can go for my Artifact Dogda, and because I opened the Fusion Destiny, I actually still get a Scythe lock set up here. Yeah, that's right, that's right. This is actually, it's actually a different, I think it's a different game with a completely different deck I was thinking of. It's kind of the sometimes I don't like to record too many different videos, like all in one kind of, like, sitting, which I'm kind of doing right now because I get a lot of games mixed up, so... but yeah, we were able to actually set up a Scythe lock here because we specifically opened the DPE. We didn't have to go into Vert, we got to go into Dogda instead. So, like I mentioned earlier, like anytime you see a 60-card deck, Scythe lock is usually going to be very effective against them. And 60-card Adamancipator is certainly no exception. Here I accidentally dropped the Scythe in attack mode, and go figure, I actually got dropleted here. So, just like I was talking about in the last game, it's why you want to summon stuff in defense mode most of the time. Definitely should have summoned a Scythe in defense mode there. So they do actually get to have access to their extra deck this game. But fortunately, I have a Maxx here, so pretty much as soon as the Revival Golem comes down, I'm going to throw out the Maxx, just because I wasn't sure if they were going to go into like an Almirage or another Link 1 or something, but... Alright, they do get a Block Dragon. They sent that off for Forbidden Droplet, but I actually have the Ash Blossom in hand. I just top decked it right during this exact draw where I needed it, because I'm the luckiest player in the world, so I just get to Ash them and stop them all together. It's going to be nice, actually, playing against Adamancipator once Block Dragon's at 1, because, like, yeah, they're just going to concede at that point. And even though Block Dragon is at 3 at the time of recording this, like, you know, our opponent wasn't able to get to another one. That said, especially in a 60-card build, there's a lot of times where they do have access to multiple Block Dragons, so I was just going to say, it'll be nice when it goes to 1, that way when you Ash it, you know, you're, like, I'm done dealing with Block Dragon for the rest of this duel there. So, yeah, there are those games there. Let's just go ahead and move now to the outro. Alright everybody, thank you so much for watching all the way to the very end of the video like this. That means a whole lot to me. Not just personally, but it's also a great way of supporting the channel as well. If you're interested in supporting the channel in other means, you can of course feel free to comment and or subscribe right here on YouTube. I'm always looking to the comments section. You guys leave some pretty awesome feedback as far as like constructive criticism goes when it comes to deck building, gameplay, channel content, all that stuff. So feel free to leave your opinion down there. I will be sure to take a look at that there. And then subscribing is going to be the best way to get notifications of when these videos drop. That does happen every day, by the way, so if you're looking for daily Master Duel content, you've come to the right place. And there are more places where you can get some daily Master Duel content if you check out the description below, follow the top link over to my Patreon page, there for just $5 a month, which is as much as you pay for a booster pack, you'll find a lot more value than a pack full of filler over there. We've got some previews for content upcoming here on the channel. We've got some exclusive games that are only posted over on Patreon over there. We've got some Q&As, and then you can also have your name featured in this lovely credit sequence where I thank all of the people who are helping contribute over there on Patreon. It's a huge support to the channel, and it really means a lot as well. So thank you everyone who is donating that is featured here on screen. And again, you know, it's not just a pure donation, you do get some more daily Master Duel content over there just for being a part of the Patreon. But I think that's about all the time that I have for today's video. Once again, I just want to thank you so very much for sticking all the way to the end of the video. Again, it just means a lot, as I do put a decent amount of work into getting these videos out every single day. But that's about all the time that I've got for now, so without further ado, this is Hexlex. I'm signing out, and I hope you have a fantastic day.